guys, my name's Ryan and welcome to the Caffeine Series presented by Sports Science Collective, where we interview athletes about their training, their sport, their mindset and what it is that helps them achieve greatness. Today's guest exemplifies what it is to achieve greatness despite the cards that life gives you. Born with spina bifida and without the use of his legs, he chose not to focus on his disabilities, but instead on the talent that he's been given. He swapped the comfort of the lounge chair for the slick nature of the racing wheelchair, and through sheer hard work and determination, was asked to represent Australia at the Paralympic Games not once, but 4 times. What is even more impressive is all the while he found time to travel, even taking his wheelchair down death road in Bolivia, absolutely mental, completed university studies in marketing and accounting, was hired as a motivational speaker and was awarded an Order of Australia medal for his efforts in wheelchair racing. A truly inspirational human with an unrivaled work ethic. Please help me in welcoming today's guest, 7-time Paralympic medalist, including 2-time gold medalist, world champion, motivational speaker, and Order of Australia medalist recipient, Richard Coleman.
Thanks,
Welcome,
guys.
Rich.
It's great to be here today and look forward to our quick chat today.
Awesome. So first up, Rich, what are you drinking?
Coffee. I am addicted to coffee, as most athletes are. As soon as we get to a new country, we can smell it and we hunt out any new coffee shop and we love it.
Nice. So we are drinking lattes from Cartel Roaster today.
In Geelong, we love this place and it's an athlete hangout.
You mentioned earlier to us about your love for coffee and a lot about how it helps you through training. So you mentioned yesterday about suffering a bit from fatigue and how caffeine really helps you through that. So kind of talk us through that. Why have you got fatigue? Is it from training or is it just the nature of sport, or tell us about it?
Yeah, not sure at the moment. I've been battling a bit of chronic fatigue and glandular the last couple of years, and we're not sure why or what happened. And I had 2013 was my best year ever. After the London Paralympics, I refocused and did the marathons. Did a lot of more 5,000 marathon training. Did 9 marathons in 2013, 3 PBs, 5th in the world. So I was going really well. 2014 started off just as well. Was winning races everywhere. Did London Marathon, top lead pack. And then 2 weeks later, I was pushing 100 meters and I was in trouble. And we don't know what caused, what happened, and ever since then, I've been in trouble. There's been 1 or 2 good days, but I mean a lot of bad days along the way. So did everything, changed training programs around, did short, did longer stuff, did easy stuff, did gym, did you name it. So after this, we're going to take a break and then try and get healthy. So it's been a tough way, but then doing a lot more coffees to keep awake, because as you get fatigue, you sleep more, you're tired. So now I'm doing a lot more coffees to get through my busy day. And everyone says I'm so crazy busy, but I'm loving it. And I'm having coffee as we are today. And it's crazy busy life.
Yeah, but it's an impressive story all the same. So we're happy that you're fueled by caffeine. And you mentioned about after this, and I'm going to ask what that means. So what's next for you? What's the next event?
Rio's coming up in a few days, so next few days I'll be in Florida for the training camp before heading down to Rio. I'm racing the 400, the 800 and the 4x4 relay in Rio, so looking forward to it. And then after that, not sure. Love to stay in the sport, but unfortunately I'm a bit broken. My body's broken as well, so getting older, everyone says I'm old and I'm only 31, but I'm still the youngest in my fields. In the 800, I'll be one of the youngest guys in the field. So I still feel I've got a lot of development and improvement to go. As you get older, you get the endurance strength, you get a lot smarter with training. So that's where I feel I've got more improvement. I've actually been under the world record almost 10 times, but never held the world record myself. So that's a driving force for me to stay in the sport.
Well, and of course, I've heard from a lot of athletes as they head towards the latter part of their career, they talk a lot about having that mental strength that comes with age. So their physical attributes might decay a little bit, but they're in a much better mindset to really achieve. Like, do you think that's true for you?
It is, and I started off doing a lot more sprinting. I'm no way near a sprinter these days. I've got a lot more endurance. I can now go harder for longer. I've got a good aero capacity. I'm endurance-wise, I'm getting better and better, but my tactics are improving. Everyone says one of my key strengths is me as an athlete is my tactical ability. No matter what position I get into in the pack, I can always find a way to make it happen. So that's what everyone is always proud of, and everyone's worried that no matter where I am, how I'm feeling, I'll always be there with tactics.
Pretty good. And I've got to say, as an exercise physiologist, it's an odd choice that you would mix such diverse events. So obviously you race in T53/54 category on the track,
Yes.
800, 1500. But you also do marathons. Now, you wouldn't catch many 800-meter runners on track and field running marathons. And why is that? Why do you have to do
With
those?
wheelchair racing, we can do more mileage than the runners, but we can't do as much mileage as the cyclists because there is impact as well on the wheels. So you've still got all those impact injuries, but we can handle a lot more mileage than what the runners can do. So I can't go out and do 200k like the cyclists, but I can do a bit more than what the runners can do. So if the runners do 6 repetitions, I might do 10. And that's where we get a bit more mileage. But you can't do marathons all year. There is periods where you do endurance, and then there's that speed competition phase on the track. So there is different phases throughout the year where we can do it. I wouldn't do marathons all year. It's a brutal phase. Marathons hurt, particularly on the distance and up the hills, but I'm enjoying it. It's something I want to do more in the future. I've only started doing really the marathons since 2013. Before London, I really didn't do many of them. And when I did, I was so new at it. I went out too hard, or I attacked at the wrong phases and I blew myself up. So I'm now getting better at it, and I think it's fun for the future. It's where the money is for the wheelchair division. Like all the major marathons invite the top 20 boys to go and do New York. You get invited to London, Boston, and that's where the money is, the glory, the publicity, and all the top boys are going to turn up all in shape. No one's going to go in bad shape, and if someone's turning up, they're in shape. No matter who they are, they're going to be competitive.
Yeah,
so that's why I want to turn up. There's a lot more money, glory now for it, and also for the 1500, there's the Diamond League series with Bolt all throughout Europe. I can go and race in Paris, Switzerland, and a few other places, and that's where the money is for us. Unfortunately, you've got to do distance to get some publicity.
Of course, and those big marathons, like you mentioned, London, Boston, for example, they attract over 1 million spectators. So obviously there's going to be increased sponsorship with that. But you mentioned a bit about prize money. So why is that important to you? Are you on a scholarship? Do you have a sponsor at the moment?
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I've been a VIS athlete for the last 10, 15 years now, and I'm very grateful for their support. I'm also got quite a few good sponsors. I've got my own branding now, and I've created my own wheelchair guys. So I felt after 2011 to get sponsorship, I was never going to get sponsorship like an AFL footballer and automatically 1 million hits anywhere. So I wanted to create an opportunity for future athletes to be able to prove that, hang on, Paralympic athletes can get sponsorship and get changes. We thought when Sydney Paralympics came around, it changed Paralympic sport for the future here in Australia and around the world. And then it plateaued for the next 6-10 years. And then it started picking up again in 2010, leading to London. London has absolutely changed the Paralympic sport for the better. London changed it for the marketing, publicity everywhere around the world. Unfortunately, here in Australia, it didn't change. I won London by 0.1 of a second, but my Japanese rival, who finished 7th, has got 10 times more sponsors, opportunities, marketing than I do, and he finished 7th. So he was like, "Oh, you're living like a king in Australia now, Rich. You won." I mean, it's really tight. I'm broke, and athletes here in Australia, we know that if you're not one of the top able-bodied guys in the world, you are tight. And that's the reality of sport. You do it for the passion and the love, and because you have the dreams in sport. You have the goals that you want to achieve. No matter what anyone says, and if you don't have any money, you'll find a way to make things happen and get to that race because you need to go to that race. And that's where it is. So
sheer grit and determination.
And so I'm very thankful for all the sponsors here in Geelong who's backed me, and I would never be where I am today without the support of the Geelong community. Because Geelong community were the ones who got me into the sport when I was 10 years old, got me into Little Athletics here in Geelong, and had me on the start line with every other able-bodied athlete. I was not treated differently. I was not in a wheelchair race, not treated anything differently, just another athlete in Little Athletics. And I'm still a member of Chewell today, so I'm very thankful for their support, and that's why I'm competing today. Unfortunately, there's a lot of athletes around Australia who don't get to compete regularly like that, even in Australia, let alone overseas. So we've got such a great support here. We produced a third of the Winter Paralympic team from Sochi were Geelong athletes. So
Yeah.
we've got 6 athletes going to Rio from Geelong, which is a huge number for Geelong when we don't have development officers. We don't have dedicated recruitment or coaches who are paid to be here in Geelong and do it. So we do a lot from ourselves for free. So it's a big work, but I'm loving it. And I've got my own logos, got my own branding, and I've got my stickers, I've got business cards, I've got everything. My car's logoed up. So if you see my car, it's all logoed up, but it's creating other opportunities for marketing and all that stuff. So I'm trying to create things that are different. I'm on social media every day, and I've been on it this morning before we came here, and everyone loves it. It's busy, but it's going to hopefully be worth it.
So what impresses the hell out of me is that not only do you find that time to train and organize your life, but you get out there and hustle. Like you're an entrepreneur. You're creating your own business, your own brand, and you're coaching 20 athletes. Tell us about that. Where do you find the time?
I don't, and that's why we're drinking a lot of coffee, Cartel coffee today here.
Cheers, Cartel.
Yep, Cartel, thank you. We're drinking a lot here today, and I'm loving it. But you start training at 6 a.m. If you've got to fit things in, athletes are some of the most organised people and useful people. We find time for anything. Other people go, oh no, I can't find it in. Yet they only work 9 to 5. And like guys, there's a lot more time in your day. Athletes, you're up at 6 a.m. and you may finish at 11 o'clock at night, but you'll find time to get all these things done. And if you need to go have a meeting, a sponsorship meeting, you'll find time to go and see those people, or you'll go find time for training and you'll get it done. And that's the reality of athletes. And I think athletes have got some great skills that we can transfer into life. And yeah, I've got my own branding now. I've got some great products now I'm selling from around the world, and got some disability stuff, but also other stuff I'm now available. So it's great.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you talk about athletes and those skills that they learn. So what I've seen from talking to a lot of athletes is that a lot of them are really, really good at that work-life balance. And I would argue that the word balance isn't fair. It's probably more work-life cram. And I've seen a lot of good athletes manage to compete at the highest level while completing university degrees to a high level, and often organising a family. And I'm sure that's just down to that sheer need or desire is probably a better choice of word, that hell, I've only got one shot at life. Like how do I make this happen? You know, how can I find the extra time? How can I find that extra fire within me to keep pushing along? And that's extremely impressive that you managed to do that.
It is, and I think when athletes have got a structured balance and they have to go, right, I've got to complete the university degree at Deakin, then they do it. If I find that when I don't have anything on, then that's when I get lazy. I don't achieve anything. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got all this time. And so you sleep an extra hour, and then there goes an extra hour of your day gone. And so you're like, well, I don't have to do anything today. I've got flexibility. So you're not structured as much. And you're like, oh, I've got a lot of spare time. But then athletes, we're trying to get more done because we've got so many opportunities and projects on the go. I'm working a few projects at the moment that it's going to take me months, but I'm working on these things that it's going to be long term, but I've got it successful in life. And so I don't want to be just successful on track. I want to be successful in business and life. And I'm creating my own branding, business, motivational speaking, coaching. Yeah, I go to Melbourne to coach every week. I go to Ballarat. I'm in Geelong. So I've got athletes young as 12 and athletes at 45. And so not all of them will go to the Paralympics. But it's not about that. It's about helping them achieve their life and achieve their goals. And so some of them just want to train once a week. And that's all right. Others want to train a couple of times, and they want to go and do a few road races, the Melbourne Marathon, whatever that is. I'm happy to help them. And if that's their goals, then brilliant. I love a few of them going to the Paralympics. And we've got a kid in Ballarat who's a 16-year-old, and he's beating me at the moment. So I have had to stop training with him because it's not great as a senior athlete going to the Paralympics when this 16-year-old is absolutely destroying me in training. But I'm loving it because he's the future of the sport, and you've got to have these futures. So that's what drives me. So I'm hopefully going to stay in the sport longer so I can help him. So I'll become pacemaker for him in the future. And I never had the sport. 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I started, I never had a mentor. I never had people showing me how to fix a racing chair. I never had people telling me how to push or how to sit and all these things that juniors need. Yeah. So now I'm helping them. And so whenever I help someone, I do the right thing. I don't go, right, you do this, and it actually is the incorrect way of doing it, and it stuffs their chair.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what happened to me. I've had people help me, and it's actually ruined the product. And that's where I'm now like, if anyone helps, there you go. No matter who they are around Australia, the world, I'll help them and do the right thing. I'll help them, give them advice with training, exercise in the gym, on the track. I'll help them. And I'll pacemaker. I've had a lot of guys around the world, my range rivals. One of the guys, a Spanish fellow, wanted help to get to the Paralympics. So I helped him get to the Paralympics, and we went number 1 and 2 in the world. So it was really great to be able to help your main rivals, because in the future, you've got more allies in the pack. And so when I need to get qualifiers, I'm like, guys, can you help me qualify? They're likely to go to the front and push the pace. They won't just go, oh, no, we'll slow it down, we'll box him in and stuff him up. That's not what you want. And there's a lot of guys who will ruin people's races just for one glory.
Yeah.
Even though, it's 3 months out from the Paralympics, you don't want to have a few enemies just for that one glory race. They're going to hate you for 10 years.
Absolutely.
And you've got to have as many allies as you can in the pack from all around the world to be able to achieve your dream.
And of course, there is obviously life after sport. And if you are not if you're not liked, if you're not a well-received athlete, if you're known for being a bit of a hard ass in the pack, the guy that kind of doesn't turn properly, knocks everyone off the track, cuts out their race, your chances of creating those ties, if you choose to work within your sport after you retire, are greatly reduced. And do you have any kind of goals? Like you talked earlier about Rio potentially being your last Olympics, but what comes next?
Not sure. And that's
Not
what
sure?
everyone's asking me is like, when are you retiring? You're old and all that. I'm like, I'm still young. I'm still want to keep going. And I want to win London Marathon one day. That's a really good goal. But now with Com Games in March 2018 in Gold Coast, it's a really good opportunity to have a home games. Sydney Paralympics, I didn't get selected. Melbourne Com Games didn't have a men's wheelchair race. They only had a women's wheelchair race. So I've never had a home games to race here in Australia, like a major championship. So I'd love to be able to do Melbourne, Gold Coast. There's a 1500 and a marathon. So I might have to do the marathon, but Gold Coast is pretty flat. So that could be good for me. But also, like we were saying, wheelchair guys, if you crash everyone regularly, you're known as that guy who crashes. Yeah. Everyone knows, it's him again. And there's guys, every single big pile-up, they'll be involved in. Yeah. Somehow, they may not have caused it, but they'll be in it. And you're like, well, guys, come on. Why are you just that one guy?
Yeah, of course.
And it's funny.
Nobody likes that guy.
No, and you get funny, like crashes, major crashes with us, and guys are doing silly things. Then we'll have a period where there's no crashes. Guys will try and stay safe because they're like, mate, I'm not risking injury just for one place or going through the middle of the pack for nothing. And there's guys who are risky and take risks. Yeah. And there's other guys who don't take their turns on the front and won't work and won't take their turns. And there's an etiquette in sport where you have to take your turns.
Yeah, absolutely. As wheelchair racing, similar to cycling, for those of you who don't know, there's obviously, you have to take turns. There's an advantage to being behind the athlete in front. There's an aerodynamic advantage and a pacing advantage. So if you don't work, get a good name for yourself as an athlete.
That's it. And over the marathon, if you sit on someone's wheel for 40k and then you come onto this track and sprint them to the last 100 meters, that's not great. Yeah, you might have won the race and got $5,000, but
it's going to be a bit of a nightmare in the change room.
Everyone else saw it. Everyone in the race saw you sitting there, refusing to take your turns. Not great look. Then the guys who are on that pack, if you try and break away with them in the future, they're not going to help you.
Yeah, of course.
And they're and they'll slow back. The pack will come back together, and we see it regularly. And that's where we now go, right. And I learned at a young age, one of my very first experiences racing in the senior division, I saw in 1999, 1 year to go to the Sydney Paralympics, all these elite athletes, 100 guys came out from all over the world, came out to race in Sydney. The guys went so hard in the 10,000 metres. One guy kept on slowing it down because he already had the standard. All he wanted to do was win the race.
Yeah.
He slowed it down. All the other boys were working together, trying to go hard. They missed the qualifier by 1 second. They were furious. And they were not happy at this guy. And then the 5,000, they crashed him.
Yeah.
They took him out and guys rolled over him. One guy punched him as they went over his head. He had a scar across his face. And they were like, that taught him the lesson, don't do it. And as a 15-year-old...
Take no prisoners.
That's it. And as a 15-year-old, you're like, whoa, I'm not messing with those boys. And so every time you went, right, you go to the front, you go hard. You take your turns. You do what you can. If you're not strong, you only take half a turn. But you don't sit back. If you're the weakest, you can sit back. Everyone knows if you're sick or injured, you're allowed to sit back. If you're world champion, you should take your turn.
Yeah, of course.
You don't sit back. If you're the strongest guy in the pack by a mile, you have to take your turn.
Yeah.
And that's what we get frustrated about. And then when the big senior boys, you're at the back just cruising along, you're enjoying it. You're like, well, come on, guys. That's not how you race.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And tell us a little bit about your chair. So they're not a ordinary bit of kit. They're quite expensive, quite impressive chairs.
Yeah, the racing chairs have developed over the last 30 years. They went from a normal day chair with the two bigger front wheels, then they went to one front wheel at the front with two bars going to it and a bit of steering. Now, I've got first year of carbon fibre. My company, I'm sponsored by a manufacturer in Japan, OX. I've been with them the last almost 10 years now, and I get the latest model. I've been able to design different things for me and assistance of where my steering wants to be, different things on the seat to make it good. I've now got the latest model for carbon fibre for this year, and it's worth about $10,000. The wheels, the full zip wheels at the moment, they're $4,000, and that's hurt my credit card a lot this lately. My credit card wasn't happy with the new set of wheels, but you do what you need to have the best equipment at all times. A lot of people have the standard aluminium frame. It's strong. It's going to hold up as long as possible. And yeah, if you crash, you can break it. But with anything, you just got to do the best you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine part of the challenge for you guys, so in cycling, the guys monitor their power, their heart rate, their GPS stuff. There's heaps of metrics about it. And in team-based sports, they look at collision forces and how much they accelerate and things. Do you guys have that? Do you monitor your training? How do you kind of do that? Is there much research and scientific development in that stuff?
Yeah, so hand cycling, they do power meters because they're lying back and they've got the hand cranks and the gears and everything. So they do a lot more power stuff than us. With the racing chair, it's all about force with your hands, pushing the rim. And so we don't use the power meters. We're looking at doing that in the future. We do mainly speed and heart rates. So now, the last few years, I've really started looking at the heart rate zones, making sure, right, this session is this, and so you work in this heart rate zone. Or this session, you're going to do your efforts at this heart rate. And so you've got to keep your heart rate at that zone. It's better when you're on the indoor trainer because you can keep it in a more stable environment. When you're on the road, you may be up and down hills, wind, rain, so you can't really control your heart rate as much. But when I'm indoors, I can control it exactly as what we need to get the benefit out of that training. So we've now looked at a few different things. I'm doing a bit more VO2 testing. I do a lot of that, trying to get the correct zones to make sure my training is perfect to develop that in the future.
And then you, of course, marry that up to heart rate zones so you can see kind of where you're training, how hard you're going.
That's it. And so what is your max heart rate? What is your blow-up zone?
Yeah.
What is your thresholds? So you know everything, and so then you can tailor your training programs around those heart rate zones more in the base training. Then in the races, I know what is blow up, which is the hard bit about it. But sometimes you just got to keep going with the pack because if you get dropped, you're not coming back to a pack. That's it, just before blowing up. So I'm looking at that. I've now taken up CrossFit, trying to do different things. In the past, I used to do gym work. I used to find that I used to slow down too much when I did gym. Now I'm doing CrossFit. I'm getting endurance because it's more longer efforts. And it's all at high intensity, smashing yourself for as long as you can.
Yeah, of course.
That's perfect for me for doing the 1500, which is 3 minutes. So you want to have a 3-minute block, smash yourself. And I've taken up boxing, so I do 3-minute rounds of boxing, all different styles of punches, so you get full muscle movement and trying to get fitter that way. So
of course, and that real metabolic conditioning, which CrossFit is renowned for. One of Australia's best sprint cyclists, actually a huge fan of CrossFit, Shane Perkins. Because it offers him that metabolic conditioning, that lactic acid tolerance that he says, is great because it doesn't hurt him as much as when he's doing efforts on the bike. So
you get the strength from it, you get a bit of cardio, you get a bit of flexibility, you get all these different things, all within that block of training in the CrossFit. So I'm loving it. I'm doing a few new exercises, trying to do a few things. My goal is to do a muscle up. I still haven't been able to do a muscle up, so it's a work in progress as well. So I've got a few goals in the gym that I want to tick off. So working that, I want to lift a bit more, but I don't want to lift too much because that's bulking me up too much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm impressed to hear about the muscle up. I tried one the other day. I think it was more like a chin up.
That's it. I can do chin ups. I can do dips all day long. I can do push ups. I've developed a push clap up, push up claps. Been doing that for power and explosive power.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do it in more of a 3-minute, more 3-minute rounds of stuff. I got up to a 40-minute round in CrossFit not long ago, so that really destroyed me. I couldn't drive for 30 minutes afterwards. Then I ended up going back to bed afterwards, so that was a brutal day at the office for any athlete. But it's a good test to see how fit you are, and it's going to get me fitter.
Absolutely, and to find where your limits lie, of course. So.
And there's only so many times when you go on the athletics track and you do 6 400s.
Yeah.
Like, that's only going to get you certain fitness.
Yeah.
And if everyone's around the world, with me, you can go to a competition like recently in Switzerland. We had 100 guys turn up. So you can hit 4, hit 5, and you go against a world champion, world Paralympic guy. There's so many guys. They're all elite.
Yeah.
What's going to separate them 0.1 of a second? I won London Paralympics in the 800 by 0.1 of a second. So what's going to separate you from the rest of the guys? So you've got to find that niche separation.
Yeah.
There's only so many times you can go out and push 30K. And if everyone's doing 30K, they're all going to be the same. So I'm trying to find what's going to get me better and break that world record.
Absolutely. And as for any athlete, like, strength and conditioning is a massive part of it to try and get them fundamental base qualities that they can build upon. Now, understanding a little bit about your sport, I'm guessing that like pushing exercises would be particularly beneficial. I'm guessing dips are probably your bread and butter. Is that something that you spend a bit of time on?
Yeah, so you either do body weights, so push-ups, dips, all that kind of stuff. Then also in the weights, it's bent over rows, upright rows for those pulling actions. Shoulder press and bench press is also a good one for me. So everyone says I'm really strong at the shoulder press. I can actually shoulder press a fair bit. So I've got to have someone strong enough to be able to lift it for me as well. So that's the problem as well. If you lift too much, you can't get a spotter to actually help you.
You can't have a spaghetti arms for a spotter.
No, that's it. You got to pick your spotters real well because you don't want them to drop it on you and get into trouble. But it's also a good way to get stronger. I'm trying to create a few different ways to get going now, and I'm helping a few athletes. I'm now testing a few exercises out and getting my juniors to create these things, and they're all like, "Oh, this is a hard program." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. That's why you're doing it." So it's going well, and a few kids are doing really well at these exercises.
Awesome, and obviously this is your training is in the gyms to try and get you that extra percent. So you mentioned the world record. I know you've achieved a lot. You've got a world championship, you've got Paralympic golds, you've got Commonwealth golds. What about the world record?
I've been under it 10 times. I've come 2nd, 3rd, 4th in the world record race. Last year, I actually finished under the world record, finished 3rd. So now my goal is to one day hold it. One day, a couple of years ago, I led the whole race, got passed with about a metre to go. The French guy sat behind me, sat on my wheel the whole race, and he got the world record. He's held world records in the past. I'm like, just let me have one. Let me have once. And he said now, he owes me now. He always says like, thank you so much. And I'm like, no, I didn't do it for you. Like, we just set up that we had perfect conditions, so we went for it. And unfortunately, he came past me and he got it. So I wasn't quite strong enough to hold him off. But one day, I've told him he's going to pacemaker me for the future. But he's one of those athletes who doesn't work at the front.
No.
And he's not one that's going to be strong enough to be able to pacemaker the race at the required speed for long enough.
So you can't sit his wheel at Rio and just hope to come round again
no,
like he did to you.
There would be he would be not at the front in Rio, and we know that. And there's been a couple of times when he has gone to the front, and everyone's like, whoa, what's going on? And I remember a Paris marathon, he attacked midway through the race, and we were looking around going, who's that 20 metres down the road? And we were like, nah, can't be him, surely, no. And after the race, I was like, dude, what was wrong with you? Are you sick or something? He goes, yeah, I don't know what happened. I just attacked and I don't know. Like, it's not me. I don't know. I looked back and you guys weren't coming. I went, yeah, because we didn't think it was you. Like, it surely can't be him. It must be someone else. But we eventually caught back up to him because you can't let anyone go too far because they'll win it. So
yeah,
there's obviously, a lot of those ones where you've got to be worried about who's going to go off the front and stuff. But hopefully one day I'll hold a world record. That's what keeps me involved in the race. So I've seen a lot of world records broken. The world records are getting now crazy fast, and they're only getting broken by 0.1 of a second now. And it's very rare world record goes. You've got to go on the fastest tracks in the world with the fastest guys, all turning up in perfect conditions. And a lot of times now, we know we're not going to get it. So it becomes down to just a race for the win. I'd love to win it. I'd love to win London Marathon. That's my goal one day. But I want to be able to afford to be an athlete. That's what I want to do, is be able to afford an income, be able
Yeah,
to
for
not
sure.
be credit card debt. And
Yeah.
then I see all my friends here in Geelong, they've got houses, they've got disposable income, they go on holidays. I'm like, as athletes, we don't get super, we don't get long service leave, we don't get holiday leave, you don't get sick leave.
Yeah.
As an athlete, if you're sick, you don't get paid. You
Absolutely.
don't win a race, you don't get paid. And that's the thing, like, so if you train on the weekends, and like if anyone works on a weekend, they get 2 days off during the week. I'm like, no, you can't do that. Even in administration, in the sport, when I go to events, event team managers, they're like, well, we work in this weekend, we're taking 2 days off this week. I went, hang on, I'm going straight back to training tomorrow, doing a 14-hour day, yet why are they getting the day off? I'm like, no, you're getting paid, you're doing the same as us, but we don't get nothing. And that's where I'm trying to change, going, right, trying to get that awareness out there, going, right,
Yeah.
it's not just all glory winning races. There's a lot of other things go behind it. We have to work super hard. Paralympic sport is professional. We are elite sport. And that's what I'm trying to get out there. Everyone goes, oh, it's all participation Paralympics. I went, no. Around the world, it is elite. We are elite athletes. We're not just come and go, you're included, oh yeah, you're para-athletes on the side. So I'm trying to prove that we are elite athletes. I'm doing just as much as anyone in the gym, training,
And deserve to win just as much.
yeah, trying to do that. And we're challenging a few athletes to come down and have a go in the racing chair now, and a few celebrities having goes in racing chairs to actually see what it feels like to have a go in the racing chair.
Yeah, nice.
And have a race. And they're like, oh my God, this is so hard. I'm like, well, yeah, that's sport, elite athletes. So that's what we're trying to change now in the future, is trying to get that awareness out there.
For sure. And something you mentioned to me previously, which shocked me, I hadn't heard of this. 20% of Australia's population lives with a disability, and you said 40-something% of those are below the poverty line.
Yeah, here in Australia, it's a staggering number of people, and not as many people are included in the sport. We don't have 20% of athletes in sport, or
No.
20% of employees don't have a disability. And that's where I'm trying to change it, going, right, hang on, why does a company of 500 people only have one person with a disability?
Yeah,
That's not
sure.
the 20% statistic like we have in the general population. And that's why I'm trying to change it. And that's 40% live below the poverty line is here in Australia. That's
Yeah.
not around the world in developing countries where it's a lot higher. This is Australia, where we have support, we have inclusion. We should be a developed country to have everyone. And that's where the new frontier is. We are a leader here in Geelong. We've got NDIS, TAC, Work Cover Coming, and all these other amazing organisations helping the disability and being a leader and a groundbreaking research. And that's why Geelong is such an amazing place, because disability is not treated as any different. We are the home of disability in Australia. We are a world leader of disability. And that's where the new frontier is going to be in the future. And it's going to create 70,000 new jobs. Here in Australia alone, it's going to be in the disability sector. And that's a huge employment. I would love to get more people employed, but it's also these other flow-on effects is going to be able to, groundbreaking research is going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something, as someone who works in research in sports science, what you said yesterday, there's 20% of populations obviously live with a disability. That's not 20% of the research that goes on. And it led me to the thought, it's like, hang on, well, I work with a lot of guys that are working at the cutting edge of sports science research, and almost none of it happens in para sport, which is a really depressing statistic.
It is, and now with Paralympics being such a major thing around the world, Paralympic sport is elite. There is now research in England, a few other places, but it hasn't caught up to the everybody side. Yeah, there's so many VO2s you can do for rowers, cyclists, but that's already done. You've got to do these other things. What else hasn't been done? What other things can you do? Yes, 20% of the population has a disability, but we want to get that research in Paralympic sport, because there's so many things you don't know. And
Yeah,
that's what I'm
absolutely.
doing. I'm now doing some groundbreaking research. I've given up waiting. I'm doing it on myself. I'm now creating some things on myself, doing some research. So we're getting some interesting data, some things that people go, oh, that shouldn't happen. And actually we're finding the data doesn't match what people think it should happen, because disability bodies react differently. We've got different blood flows because of our accidents or because we're births. So spina bifida is the second most common disability. And so our blood flow is different. Our reaction under exercise is different to normal people. And they don't know what goes on. We don't know what's happening. So they're like, so many things that unanswered questions. And you're like, well, all right, let's do some research. So I'm doing it myself and going, right, let's find answers. And when it's getting some really interesting data where I'm like, whoa, that shouldn't happen like this.
Yeah, which is impressive because, obviously you can't apply those general training principles about, this is what VO2 max is, this is what lactate threshold is, this is what ventilatory threshold is and what they do, because they don't apply it to para-athletes. As you said, you have different etiologies, different physiologies. So that's hugely impressive that you're doing that research on yourself.
And it's with the VO2s, I'm a lot lower, but they're like, well, why is that? And it's because our leg function, blood flow is less. Quadriplegics have a different blood flow. They react differently under pressure, but they also, because their injuries are different levels. And the paraplegics are different levels of injuries. And so you're like, what does that change?
Yeah, of course.
No one knows. And how does your muscle function change? How does energy systems change? How long can you do? What can you do?
Yeah.
How much do you need of protein? And it's interesting stuff coming along. And then, because I'm a birth, I'm different again. So everyone goes, well, this is what happens if you're a T6 break. This is what should happen. Well, what am I? And that's the difference. It's like, your blood flow is different. Your energy use is different. Your VO2 is different. And you're like, okay, how can we get that better? How can we help the general population?
Yeah.
And so I've got a lot of people who are in the general population with my disability who all this research will help eventually in general life.
Yeah, of course. And it's interesting you say that. So something I've realised, which it's not universally recognised, at least it's not as much as it should be, in that often research that happens in sports science, sports physiology, translates into, the real world. Like we've gone, hang on, exercise helps diabetes. It helps Parkinson's, it helps a whole range of things. So if we understand how para-athletes operate and work at the human extremes, then we can kind of backtrack that and understand that this is how we get someone healthier, this is how we get them fitter and better.
That's it. And with us, there's research that shows that if you put $1 into prevention, you save $4 down there later on cures and medical bills and all this stuff. And with disability, it's a known fact that we have more medical bills, we have more health issues. So if you can help people prevent those, that's going to save the economy a lot of money and help those people stay healthier, because they have a lot more health issues. They're not going to be able to be involved in the community as much.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then your community doesn't earn as much money, and it's a flow-on effect for a whole range of issues.
Yeah.
But we see that one of the funny stories was one of the wheelchair girls was doing a course and it was cooking for people in wheelchairs. And she was in a wheelchair and she failed it because the lecturer said, no, that's not how you do it. And she was like, yeah, actually, this is how I do it. People in wheelchairs actually do it. They want it as a theory way. This is what he said you should do it as for people in wheelchairs should cook like this.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, in reality, we can't do it like that. Boiling water will go everywhere and you'd burn yourself. And so she ended up failing the course, even though she was in a wheelchair, which is just amazing. And I just can't get over that. Like, how can someone in a wheelchair fail cooking for people in wheelchairs? Because that's how you cook. And you're independent, you do everything. So there's some things like that which makes it realise, like, some things in theory don't relate to how they are on the ground. And that's where we're coming along. Like, they say, oh, wheelchairs should do this, but in reality, it doesn't work. And that's what I'm trying to tell the population.
Yeah, of course. And that's an incredibly valuable thing to do. Before we finish up, I want to ask you a couple more questions. Firstly, you're off to Rio soon, and you're cutting it quite close this time. So you're going to be there 2 days before all of the action starts. Why? What's it like at the Olympic Village? Why have you chosen to go so late?
I haven't chosen.
Haven't chosen.
That was what we got told we're going in. I'd love to go in about 4 days out from the opening, so you can do a few sessions. You can get more relaxed with the village, because the day one, when you're there, there's so many things happening, so many things to explore, so many of these other things that takes energy out of your system. Even though I've been there now a couple of times, I know what to expect. I know what the dining hall is going to be like.
McDonald's,
mayhem.
apparently.
It's going to be mayhem. It's going to be a lot of energy sapping stuff. So you're trying to save as much energy as possible. I don't compete for 4 days after I get there. So there's still a bit of time.
Yeah.
I'm in Florida, basing there for the next 2 weeks. before an overnight flight down to Rio, but that's still going to hurt you. You're still going to get tired from flying 8.5 hours overnight. So we're going to do everything right. We do compressions, ice baths. We'll have a massage. We'll do everything right, and then I'll be right to go. So my main event's not first up, so I'm pretty lucky that the 800 is later on.
Yeah, of course. And how do you go in the heat and humidity?
I love the heat.
Awesome.
The Geelong winter, I hate it. That's why I leave pretty much from April to November. I'm not around, and you're very lucky to have me back at the moment. Today's weather's raining, as we see in Geelong today.
Absolutely.
It's so cold. I don't work very well. I've always done races in the cold, and I just don't win, and I just don't know. My body just doesn't function well enough. 35, 40 degrees, and I'll be fine. No worries whatsoever. Rio's getting hotter. Can't wait for it hot. The other day I saw it was only 20 and 18 degrees, and I'm a bit worried that it's a bit cold for me. The hotter the better for me. Some athletes like cold, some athletes like hot. I like it hot.
Yeah, and of course the track is going to be quicker too, and when it's hot.
Hopefully, other times it gets too hot and it starts melting. So you've got to look at the benefits of both sides. So hopefully it's going to be no wind, hot, dry, hard track, perfect for racing.
Awesome. And finally, last question. What legacy would you like to leave? What would you like to have as your lasting impression as a fantastic athlete, Paralympic champion?
I want future Paralympic athletes to be able to be sponsored and be able to live off sport. I don't want them to have to work full time to be able to go to the next race. I don't want them to have to be broke and have to try to find some money to be able to go to the race to qualify for the Paralympics. I want them to go, right, I want to win the Paralympics. This is what I have to do. These are the races I'm going, and be able to do what they need and be able to have money in their bank account. And we're doing it. Some of them guys, the junior from Ballarat, he's now got sponsorship. We're doing him marketing training. He's been doing public speaking training. I've been making sure he does it all. Because when I was a junior, I never had any of that training. So when I won gold in Athens, all of a sudden I had to do talks to schools. I had to do all this stuff, marketing, publicity work, where he's had this now at 15. And so he's so much more prepared than what I ever was. And so hopefully one day he'll be able to go, right, I want to go to the Paralympics. Like this year, not working, going to train. And that's the difference of winning and not winning.
And that would be hugely, hugely beneficial to you, to him, and to us as a sporting nation. With that, I thank you immensely. It has been hugely inspirational and informative. And guys, I encourage you to please help support our Paralympic athletes, okay? These are the elite guys. These are the best in the world. It is extremely professional. It is extremely tight, and it is thrilling to watch. I thank you so much for coming in, Rich.
Thank you, guys. It's been brilliant, and hopefully everyone got something out of today's chat. And I shared some of my stories of traveling the world and being an athlete.
And just on our half, can you please sport some kit for us in
Brilliant.
Rio?
Thank you very much.
Cheers, man. Thank you so
Brilliant.
much. It has been an absolute pleasure to interview you.
Brilliant. Thank you
Thanks.
very much. It's brilliant.